Hastings always pays more attention when young women are being questioned.
Mr. Poirot, I don't like being stared at. If you have something to say, would you please say it to me?
You've seen Fraser, Hastings. What is your feeling?
He's a big chap. Fragile isn't exactly the word that springs to mind. I talked to his landlady before seeing him. She went to bed at 11. Fraser wasn't home yet.
Bien. Megan Barnard said he is a reserved character but with a nasty temper. We will see if this is the case. How do you do, Mr. Fraser?
You're Hercule Poirot. Mr. Hastings said you wanted to speak to me.
Yes. I know that it may not be at the right time, but I would like to ask you a few questions. This man looks suspicious.
Leave me alone.
Donald Fraser is in a terrible state, as if he hadn't slept all night. And he's drinking White Horse.
Leave me alone. Tell me that it's a mistake. That Betty isn't dead.
Sadly, your lady friend has been murdered, Mr. Fraser.
Oh, Betty, if only you'd listened.
If she had listened to you, she would still be alive. Should I take that to be a confession?
With that sort of thinking, you must send a lot of innocent men to prison. Under different circumstances, I might even find you amusing, sir.
It's no time for amusement, Mr. Fraser. It is time to find your fiance's killer. Did you know what her plans were for the evening?
She said she was having dinner with her sister.
Yet, Megan only returned to Bexhill this morning, Mr. Fraser.
I didn't know.
Right. May I ask you what you were doing yesterday evening?
I spent the evening working.
Your colleagues can confirm this?
No, I often take work home with me.
You are lying, Mr. Fraser. As was Betty when she hid the fact from you that she was seeing other men.
Betty was a very decent young woman. How dare you sully her memory?
I am not interested in memories of her, Mr. Fraser. I am looking for a killer, and I need you to be my closest ally. That is, unless you have something to hide.
Of course I don't.
Très bien. So, what were we saying? Where were you yesterday evening?
I looked everywhere for her, but in vain. When she said she was going to have dinner with her sister on a weekday, I thought it was strange. I tried not to think about it, but I was like a lion in a cage. I was convinced she was lying. So I went round all the restaurants in the town. When I didn't find her, I went to the next town. But nothing. I must have got home about midnight or 1 o'clock.
Did anybody see you?
I don't think so. I didn't talk to anybody. I was so furious.
Ah, I knew I'd find you here, Poirot. I thought the victim's young man was here.
Yes, is all yours, Chief Inspector. Let us now try and get our brain cells to work.
Fraser doesn't have an alibi and he's extremely jealous.
You are very skilled at summing up.
And yet you haven't asked Japp to arrest him.
It is too soon. But I agree, without the letters announcing the crimes, Fraser would already be behind bars. Bon, I think we have enough elements. Let's reconstruct the events at the scene of the crime.
I can't imagine how the murderer wasn't seen, though. Surely she must have struggled.
Let us try and imagine the scene. The killer and the victim are walking on the beach. Miss Betty has a bag, a belt around her waist, and carries her shoes in her hand. Both of them walk slowly to hut number 5. Both of them walk slowly to hut number 6. Miss Betty enters the hut. She leaves without her belongings. Then she hides a code. They keep walking. Then she removes her belt.
The murderer moves behind her and then attacks her by surprise. The body falls, lifeless, on the sand.
Everything appears to match the crime scene, mon cher Hastings. That is exactly what happened. Without the ABC, we might have suspected Mr. Asher and Mr. Fraser. But by signing his crimes, the murderer is making sure he's accused. In a way, it is very generous of him.
Generous? The murderer seduced Betty in order to lure her to the beach and kill her.
Indeed, the young woman was certainly careless, but not stupid enough to follow a stranger.
What are you planning to do, Poirot?
Return to London, mon cher Hastings. Right, back to London. There is nothing more for us to do here.
Japp has decided to reveal details to the press. The Alphabet murder is now famous.
It is not a bad idea. The more people who know, the greater our chances of finding out something of interest.
Poirot, I have a bad feeling. Poor Mr. Poirot, not so good at these little criminal matters as you thought yourself, are you? Rather past your prime, perhaps. Let us see if you can do any better this time. This time, it's an easy one. Churston on the 30th. Do try and do something about it. It's a bit dull having it all my own way, you know. Good hunting. Ever yours, ABC. Good hunting. Did you hear that, Poirot? The murderer seems to be taking it all as a game, a challenge. He will strike on 30th in Churston. We must warn Scotland Yard.
By the way, Hastings, what day is it?
Well, looking at the calendar, it's the 30th. No time to lose. We must prepare our suitcases for Churston.
Mon Dieu, it is already 10 o'clock. I will call Scotland Yard immediately. It is not the right time. Miss Hastings tore the envelope. It is not a good time. It is not a good... Hello, Japp. We received a new letter from ABC in the 10 o'clock post.
Where and when?
In Churston. Today.
Today? I'll inform the population immediately.
I'll check the train times. Call me back. Daily Flicker, July 30, 1935. ABC affair, no progress. The Alphabet murderer is still on the run. Ever since the police found the connection between the Bexhill and Andover affairs, the inquiry has barely progressed. In this issue, we are publishing provocative letters sent by the killer to Hercule Poirot. Unfortunately, they have not yet helped to find him. Daily Flicker, July the 26th, 1935. The Bexhill horror. Young maid strangled on the beach. Killer struck at midnight. Some cool air. It is not a good time. Hastings, what you are doing is an absolute disaster. That is no way to pack suitcases.
Heavens, we must hurry. We have to get to Churston before the murder.
You're right, Hastings. It is an emergency.
At last, Poirot, you're being reasonable. Poirot, you were right. I've just consulted the ABC guide. There's no hurry. The next train doesn't leave till 11:45.
You see, there is no need to hurry. We will not be in Churston until tomorrow morning, after the murder.
But why has the murderer warned us so late? It's not what he usually does. Did he do it on purpose?
Very good question, Hastings. We should also compare the letter we have just received with the other two. Although I have very little doubt about what we will find. Hastings, it would appear that you are getting slightly thin on top.
Really? I hadn't noticed.
It is now the right time. Right, let us compare this new letter with the second one. Let us examine this more closely. Certain characters in the two letters may have similar defects. Yes, this I is weird. Right, let us come. Yes, the I characters in the two letters do indeed have the same defects. I have to find some other similar. Yes, the A appears to be quite unusual. Right, let us come. That's right. The A characters in the two letters do indeed have the same defects. I have to find... The W is not printed properly. Right, let us go. Of course, the W characters in the two letters do indeed have the same defects. My theory was right. These two letters were written with the same typewriter. Let us now try and get our brain cells to work. The letter should have arrived in time. The postmark shows that it was sent 3 days ago. However, our man made a mistake in the address, which explains the delay. All the same, the post office took their time correcting the error.
Come on, Poirot. Your address is not quite as well known as that of Scotland Yard. Poirot, the telephone. It must be Jap.
I have some news from Churchton. Bad news, I'm afraid. Sir Carmichael Clark was murdered while out on his evening walk.
Sir Carmichael Clark. The name is familiar to me.
He was a famous throat specialist, one of the best in London. A wealthy man, he retired to Combside, a beautiful house by the sea. He collected antiques.
Are you going there?
Yes, let's meet on the train. The victim is called Sir Carmichael Clark, one of the best throat specialists in London. The body was still warm when we found it. If we'd been warned earlier, we definitely could have saved him.
It appears that the murderer made a mistake when he wrote his letter.
A mistake? Lucky for him.
And what if he did it on purpose?
No. He's defined his madcap rules and he's sticking to them. It's a matter of pride for him. Shall we go up to the house, Poirot?
You go, my friends. I will come soon. gravel on the path has been sprayed with blood that covers a conical-shaped area, which starts at the body and becomes wider as it moves further from the bush. Sir Carmichael's throat was cut. It's a clean incision, a professional murder. Apart from the wound to the throat, the body is untouched. No cuts, no bruises. An ABC guide, the murderer's customary signature, covered in blood this time. Jab has emptied the victim's pockets and has laid out their contents on this piece of wax cloth. A signet ring, very probably with the Clark family's coat of arms. It is pointless. An Oriental dragon. It's an old piece, much older than the pocket watch on which it was fastened. Nothing appears to be missing from this wallet. This place is very calming. The site is exceptional. It is easy to imagine that Sir Carmichael used to enjoy stopping here every evening. The vegetation behind the bush has been trampled. The body is just in front of a bush, one of the only bushes in the surrounding area. Let us now try and get our brain cells to work. Sir Carmichael had his back to the bush when the killer cut the throat from behind. A fatal blow that sprayed blood over a range of more than 1 meter. Let us now try and get our brain cells to work.
Have you finished, Poirot?
Chief Inspector, many questions remain unanswered, but I am certain of one thing. The killer is a daring opportunist. He met Sir Carmichael at nightfall on this deserted path and took advantage of the situation.
Impossible. You forget the trampled grass behind the bush.
Ah, c'est vrai. It proved that he was waiting for his victim.
Quite right. He must have known Sir Carmichael's movements well to plan such an attack.
This time, theft may have been the motive for the crime.
Theft? But we found a wallet full of banknotes on the body and a watch worth at least £50.
Certes. I had forgotten these details, so we can exclude the theory of theft. Have you spoken to the victim's family, Chief Inspector?
I've spoken to the brother, Franklin Clark. I didn't get much out of him. He's yours. I must get the body removed.
I had better go up to Campside.
To be honest, this inspector seems rather obtuse. I'm counting on your friend Poirot to catch my brother's murderer. Ah, here he is now. Please, Mr. Poirot. Mr. Poirot, this is my brother's secretary, Miss Thora Gray.
Pleased to meet you, Mr. Poirot. Would you like some tea?
No, thank you, mademoiselle. I find it hard to digest. There is something very viril about him. There is something very viril about him. Franklin Clark is an adventurer, the sort of man that women like. There is something elegant about her. She has good taste, except perhaps in her choice of jewelry.
Please.
My brother's wife is gravely ill. You will probably want to question her, but I fear that it won't be possible today.
Rather just say that you do not want her to testify.
You don't seem to realize her condition. She doesn't even know he's dead. Sorry, but it's not possible.
Of course, I understand. Someone set a trap for your brother. Who was familiar with his habits?
Everybody knew he took his evening walk at 8:30, and that he always followed the same path.
Was it a dark night?
It was a new moon. I took a lantern.
So it was you who found the body.
Yes, along with the gardener.
Have you seen any strangers around the house recently?
No, As far as I know, nobody has been near the house.
Miss Clark.
Oh, Lady Clark must have fallen from her chair. I have to help Miss Grey get her up.
Hastings, while our host is gone, let's examine the drawing room.
But, Poirot, a gentleman shouldn't...
I take full responsibility. All you have to do is to leave the drawing room door ajar and let me know if anyone is coming. A tiger. A turtle. A dragon. A crane? It is an emperor. His place at the center of the table is probably symbolic. Dragon, dragon, dragon. Sir Carmichael showed himself to be very consistent in his collection's theme. Comside's private collection, purchases since 1920. The catalogue for Sir Carmichael Clark's collection. There are some very valuable objects here. Compass, point to the south. Bronze and magnetite, Han Dynasty, circa 210 BC, purchased in Hong Kong 1935. There are some traditional Chinese map, facsimile. South is on the top of the map. It's locked. Sir Carmichael's collection could rival that of a major museum. It is blocked. Turtle, dragon, crane, and the tiger. I think I've already seen this motif somewhere. The cardinal points. This book could maybe help me. Each cardinal point is associated with one animal and one color. In the middle sits the imperial dragon, and out of respect, all the others are turned towards him. Each cardinal point is associated with one animal and one color. In the middle sits the imperial dragon, and out of respect, all the others are turned towards him.